So now we're going to go ahead and record the lease. So just like, if we wanted to, we could go back to that problem. And we're going to do the exact same journal entries as we have right here. And so we're going to have a leased asset of 9985. We're going to have a lease payable 9985. We're going to have a lease receivable 9985, and we're going to have, give it a little my equipment, 9985. Alright, so we're clear what just happened. For the lessor, they took the asset off of their books and then put it back on. That was the lessee. For the lessor, they put the asset on their books and they took it back off. Does everybody see that? So, I think it's simplest to think about it separately. The sale and then the lease. The sale puts the asset, take the asset off their books, and then the lease puts it back on. The sale puts it on and then takes it back off. Alright, our first lease payment is the exact same date. So let's go ahead and, I'm just going to take the numbers from what we did previously, and these payments happen to be $2,000 each, so we're going to credit cash, $2,000. We're going to debit the lease payable, $2,000. The lessor is going to debit cash, $2,000. Is going to credit lease receivable, $2,000. So exactly the same as what we did with the direct financing lease, our very first example. December 31st, 2011. A couple things are going to happen here. One new thing, and then a bunch of stuff we've already done previously. So first of all, someone has to depreciate it. Let's figure out who that's going to be, and let's do that first. So who's going to depreciate this asset? The lessee, right? Because the capital lease, they have the asset on their books, they're going to depreciate it. So they were just depreciating it previously because they owned it, now they're depreciating it because they're leasing it. Kind of interesting, that's the way it works though. So let's figure out the amount of depreciation. And so 9985 is the amount. What period of time are they going to depreciate this over? 7 is an option.
6-year lease.
So it's a 6-year lease, 7-year useful life. So is it 6 or 7?
6.
It's going to be 6. And we know why. No bargain purchase option. No change of ownership. Just thinking, I wonder if I have one of these where the ownership does change. I'm not sure. You'll find out. Obviously, the bargain purchase option, the ownership changes. I don't know if I have another one. All right, so 9985, we're going to divide that by, we decided 6, and so we're going to get 1,664, and so we're going to debit depreciation expense of 1,664. Accumulated depreciation is going to be credited for 1,664. All right, next thing we'll do is stuff we've already done before, and then we'll do the new thing last. Previously, we've done this. We've recorded the interest expense, and the interest expense is going to be the carrying value times the interest rate. I'll just put that up here. So it's going to be 7985 times 0.08, which is going to give us 639, just like before. So we're going to debit interest expense 639. We're going to reduce our lease payable by the difference between that and $2,000, which is 1,361. We're going to credit cash $2,000. Similarly, for the lessor, they're going to debit cash $2,000. They're going to record interest revenue of 639, and they're going to reduce their interest receivable, lease receivable 361. All right, and so the only other thing that we need to do is the new thing, which is when we initially created this thing, we had a deferred gain. And so what we're going to do with the deferred gain is we're going to amortize it over the life of the lease. And so the deferred gain that we recorded initially was $2,985. And we're going to spread it over these 6 years. And so that is going to give us $498 each period. So we're going to debit the deferred gain to get rid of that liability. $498, and we're going to credit a gain of $498. And so each year, at the end of each year, they would have a gain of $498 from this sale. Any questions on that? Does it make sense why you would do it?
No.
Okay. The reasoning, okay, let me think through the reasoning. I'm not 100% sure the reasoning off the top of my head. I haven't thought through this previously. The reasoning is why do we defer the gain? Okay, so let's assume this is because of a matching. Off the top of my head, I do not know the reasoning. Why do we defer? Anybody have their textbook? Professor Blunking still has the textbook. You found the answer for that. I do not. I know there is a reason, but I can't think of what it is. I'm gonna look quick. So this is actually a really good chapter, so I will spend some time here in this chapter. It's relatively well done. Anyone know what page sale and leasebacks are on? What is it?
Very end.
Yes, chapter 15, thank you, that's very helpful.
Very end.
I see executory costs, I see contingent rentals. Is it in the appendix?
No.
Oh, sales type leases, I found it. No. Capital leases, no. Oh, Part D, special leasing arrangements. So why do we do this? I just talked about that. Huh, and they have it for operating too. Losses on sale and lease back.
Would it be because you're not really like, you're still using the equipment?
Okay, fine, but we defer the gain, great. It doesn't tell me why. All right, I'll try to think through the reasoning. I don't see it there. And I will post something because I cannot think through the reasoning why you do this. But that is what we do. We do defer those gains and record all the losses immediately. All right, so we still have a couple minutes left. And so what I want to do with those couple minutes is to give you a couple hints on the exam, and then look at least one of these to give you a flavor of what you're going to be doing as you work through these practice problems that I gave you. So, as I mentioned earlier, there is a tendency for some students to focus all the time on leases. And it's understandable because they're very hard. Getting all of these lease questions right requires a lot of work understanding leases inside and So you will have to spend a lot of time on leases, but don't neglect the bond problems. And so it's kind of up to you exactly how you want to do this, but I would probably focus on the leases first, crank those things out, and then go back and do the bonds, but that'll be up to you. All right, so let's spend a couple minutes and look at least one of these example problems. What kind of one do you want to do? You pick a type. Don't say operating because that's the easy one. What kind of lease do you want me to do? The executory cost one? Alright, let's see, do you want to do the executory cost? Okay, let's do the executory cost. This is number 7. Go to number 7. How long do I have? 10 minutes? Does it say 10 minutes up there? Almost 10 minutes. Alright. Number 7. And you'll notice that a lot of these are very similar. I just changed them slightly. And so the first thing we'll have to do when we look at one of these is figure out what type of lease it is. So obviously here, I don't know what type it is. I happen to have the answers here, so I know that this is one that includes executory costs. So on January 1st, 2011, Turtles Inc. leased an enormous heating lamp from Lizards Corporation at a price of $5,000. The lease agreement specifies annual payments beginning January 1st, 2011, the inception of the lease, and each December 31st thereafter through 2015. The estimated useful life of the lamp is 6 years. On December 31st, 2016, at the end of this 6-year lease term, the lamp is expected to be worth nothing. So they're going to lease it for 6 years, and at the end of that 6 years, they expect it to be worth nothing. So it's the entire useful life is made up of the lease term. So first of all, obviously a capital lease. You know, straightforward, done for the lessee. In other words, you know this is a capital lease. Capital lease. That is very, very straightforward. For the lessor, we still need to figure out if this is a sales type or a direct financing lease. So we'll keep reading. So Lizards purchased the lamp at a cost of $5,000, and its interest rate for the financing of the transaction is 7%. So what kind of lease is this?
Direct.
This is a direct financing capital lease. Direct financing capital lease. Why? Because the price that they paid for, $5,000, is equal to the price that they are leasing this for. That is the definition of a direct financing lease. All right, and then it says 7%. The payments by Turtles of $1,200 per period include maintenance costs. How should this lease be classified? So we've already figured that out. It's a capital lease for the lessee. It's a direct financing capital lease for the lessor. And we have executory costs, which are these maintenance costs. Because part of that $1,200 is going to be maintenance costs. So the first thing we need to do is we need to figure out, well, what are going to be the payments without the maintenance costs? And so let's draw a quick picture. And so here we have 1, 1, 11, and then it's going to be 6 periods. And we're going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 payments. And then the present value of those are going to equal $5,000. So we do the present value of an annuity due, and the interest rate is going to be 7%, and the 6 periods. Can someone, I don't have these numbers in front of me, so we're going to have to figure that out. So go to the present value of an annuity due table, and go to 7%, 6 periods, and tell me what that factor is going to be. And then we're going to multiply
5.10220.
Tell me that one more time.
I'm sorry, 5.10020. Something like that. I don't have my glasses.
5.10020, and we'll solve for x. Someone with the calculator do that for me real quick. $980. Very good. So the $980 would be the payments without the executory costs. So these are all going to be $980, each one of the 6 of those. So the difference between these two must be executory costs. Does that make sense so far? So far so good? Alright, so now we're going to start recording some journal entries. So this is going to be on January 1st. You notice that I don't say what kind of journal entries I'm looking for. I'm looking for all journal entries on this date associated with this thing. So if there's depreciation, if there's gains or losses, if there are sales, if there are whatever, all journal entries. So we need all of them. In this particular case, there is going to be 2 journal entries. There's going to be the first journal entry, which is going to be the transfer of the asset from the lessor to the lessee, since it's a capital lease. So the lessee is going to get the leased asset, and they're going to put it on their books for the $5,000, which is the present value of the minimum lease payments, which is the $5,000. They're going to record a lease payable of $5,000. They're also going to make a payment on the same date, so they're going to make a cash payment of $1,200, and then $980 of that is going to go to reduce the lease payable, and then the remainder is going to go to some kind of a prepaid, which is going to be the difference of $220. Does that make sense? So this is the transfer of the asset and the creation of the liability. This is the first payment, which includes some executory costs and the lease payment. From the lessor's perspective, they're going to record a lease receivable of $5,000. They're going to reduce their asset, we'll just assume this is inventory, it could also be property, plant, equipment, would be fine. They're going to receive cash of $1,200. They're going to reduce their lease receivable only by the $980 that we already figured out. And then the rest is going to be a liability to them. Maintenance payable of $220. Okay, we're almost out of time, so I'm going to go really quickly through the rest of this. And we don't have time to go through the rest of this. So I'll just talk through what would happen with the rest. The next payment, these are the solutions. You have these solutions already. The next payment, the cash will be $1,200. The maintenance expense is going to stay the same because the difference, we figured out what the difference is. And we're always going to be having the $220. So why is this not a prepaid this time? Essentially what I'm doing is I'm creating a prepaid and getting rid of the last prepaid at the same time. In other words, this could be a prepaid, then I need another journal entry that got rid of the prepaid and had an expense at the same time. Interest expense would work the same way as usual. We'd take the carrying value multiplied by the interest rate, get 281, lease payable, and we'll have depreciation. And we don't have enough time to do the rest. Incidentally, from the lessor's perspective, as this payable is created and as they actually do maintenance on it, this journal entry would happen. It would not necessarily happen on this date. So, but we know this would happen at some point during the period. Does that make sense? And unfortunately, we're out of time, otherwise I'd do the rest. These would be the journal entries on the last day. Depreciation, get rid of the asset, because at the end it's worth nothing. All you do is take off your books, floats off into the ether. Don't put it back on their books. Basically, the lessor will record nothing on this day. They don't get it back, they don't get a payment on the last day, it's just, that's it, it's done. Could record this sometime during the period. This would be the last recording of the expense and getting the last one of the prepaid. Alright, so we're out of time. 2 weeks until the exam. It starts 15 minutes early from our normal class period. Don't forget about that. If you have any questions, which so many of you will, feel free to send emails to me. I will also be in my office for another class. And maybe I'll post this on Desire to Learn, but I'll just tell you real quickly that I am going to have office hours. If you want to come to. What's the date of your exam? Alright, so it'll be the week before that, on that Wednesday and Thursday, the week before it. I'll be in my office from 11 in the morning until 3 in the afternoon. I'll post that in Desire to Learn. But if any of you want to come to my office during that time, you can certainly come and ask any questions. So, thanks for having